Greetings, YouTube. This morning on the way home from work, I was listening to New Hampshire Public Radio, as I do every morning. And they were discussing the current vote going on in Congress, in the U.S. Congress, about beginning a debate about the Don't Ask, Don't Tell issue. Now, the person delivering this news, the broadcaster, said that that gay rights is a tricky issue for both the Republicans and the Democrats. Which is when I got really mad. Because you see, it isn't a tricky issue. It's basic fecking human rights. Flat out. This isn't a political hot potato. This isn't something that should be considered, well, should we discuss it? Shouldn't we discuss it? No. It's basic human rights. Now, the conservatives in Congress are trying to filibuster the vote on this measure. Now, this measure they're voting on, I believe it's today, isn't to actually repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. It's just to open up a debate about whether we as a nation should repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So the conservatives in Congress are willing to filibuster the very concept of discussing the topic. They are so terrified that Americans might get a chance to actually express their views that they're willing to filibuster the very concept of voting on whether we should talk about the topic. I have an absolute loss of words here for the absolute depth of moral cowardice that concept brings to mind. I mean, how deeply morally reprehensible must you be that you are so dyed-in-the-wool tied to the concept of preventing your fellow Americans from having equal rights that you won't even let people discuss it? That you're willing to filibuster the very topic of debate. And one of the people in charge of this whole debacle, one of the ones willing to lead this filibuster, none other than McCain, the ex-presidential candidate from 2008. Now, I recently was in a discussion with someone on a YouTube thread, and I called McCain a senile old man. The person took umbrage at this. And he said that McCain has never shown that he is in fact senile, so saying that is an insult to him. Well, see, at one time I had a good deal of respect for Mr. McCain. But then he went and endorsed torture, even though he himself survived torture. And then he does something like this, where he filibusters the very concept of debating the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. So the reason I called him a senile old man is that I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. I was cutting him some slack. Because if he's in control of his faculties, and he endorses torture, and if he's in control of his faculties, and he endorses preventing us from discussing the very topic of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, then he is a war criminal and a moral reprobate. And I would rather just think of him as a senile old man, for the fond memories I have of the man he used to be. But that man's gone. And the one we have now is bankrupt. He's got nothing left. He's a hollow, empty shell full of nothing but conservative rhetoric. So don't tell me, broadcaster or conservatives, that basic human rights are a tricky issue for Congress. Every American deserves equal treatment under the law. I don't care what their gender is, their sex, their orientation. I don't care what nationality they are, what religion, what political affiliation, whether they like to get dressed up in animal costumes on the weekends for fun. I don't care what they do. So long as they are law-abiding citizens, they deserve equal protection under the law. So how about the Congress stop dicking around and get out there and do something useful? Stop debating Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and repeal the friggin' thing. It was morally incomprehensible when it was done in Clinton's era. And now, it's even stupider. Get rid of it. The military doesn't need it. They don't want it. There are many militaries in the world that have gay men and women serving openly in their service. And guess what? The world hasn't ended. They do their job. Why? Because they're service people. Because they've taken an oath to defend their country. And who they like to sleep with, what orientation or sex or gender or whatever they may be, has no bearing on their ability to stand up and defend their nation. So how about Congress stop being cowards and just tackle the topic? Deal with the subject. Kick its ass, get it over with, and move on to, say, saving our economy. This isn't a tricky issue, folks. This is basic human rights.